Hello, children of a lesser joint, and welcome to today's version of Jaw Talk. I'm going to give you the answer to the question as to whether or not the lateral pterygoids are involved in disc displacement, predicated on the studies that I have seen and chose to present. I'm going to say the answer is heavily shaded towards no. You'd be interested to know that in our voting poll, 83% of you answered yes. Let me talk about how this whole thing evolved, just as a bit of a recap. It was initially thought, when presented by Kamiyama, that the function of the heads of the lateral pterygoid were reciprocal. In other words, they were actively engaged in contraction in opposite directions. The lower head was active when we open, and the upper head was more active when we closed. This rapidly became incorporated into the rationale for dental treatment and explanations as to why TM joint dysfunction actually occurred, as well as the disc displacement, and it's called occlusomuscular. The occlusomuscular concept really revolves around having teeth hit in abnormal positions that cause abnormal muscular patterns and deflection of the mandible, with the teeth, of course, involved, as well as the jaw joint itself, the TM joint, and were actively involved in contributing to the muscle disharmony they said was occurring. This also became part of prescribed treatments in order to resolve the issues at rest here. Is any of this true? Is part of it true? Well, I'm going to shade my answer mostly towards no, as you would guess. I have to leave the door open for things I don't know about, for what may come about in the future. However, as I get further into the sections, you're going to see that I'm able to at least provide answers that are predicated on facts. So for today, I'm going to say heavily shaded towards no, and I will stay that way throughout the entire series. In answering the question as to whether or not muscular abnormalities or disharmony or dysfunction can actually cause the disc displacement, a group of researchers came together and they started to ask questions similar to the ones that I asked in looking at the literature, in order to account for the answers that I might provide for this group. Number one is, we don't spend a lot of time with our teeth together. A lot of the description of why this occurs is because of abnormal tooth contacts. But the truth being told, we spend most of our time with our teeth apart, our lips relaxed, and that's called physiologic rest. I needed to know when the muscles are active and they're contracting, because if they're not contracting, how can they contribute to disc displacement? And I also needed to describe that for both heads of the lateral pterygoid. I also wanted to know what percentage of the muscle actually attached to the disc, because if I have a small percentage, it may not provide enough force to pull the disc out of its normal position. And then if I added in a third head into that formula, would that increase the force of the muscle on the disc, and could that provide even a stronger influence for disc displacement? Basically, there are four authors that have written between 1999 and 2012, with the best literature being provided between 2001 and 2005. This is a group out of Australia, and the strength of their studies is predicated on the fact that they used wire electrodes to test both heads of the lateral pterygoid muscle. Now, that's not the first time that that's been done. And this group claims that the models that have been generated are perhaps erroneous and unsubstantiated. Now again, while they're not the first ones to use wire electrodes, they are the first ones to confirm their placement with CT scan. They're also the first group to go ahead and put it in different parts of the muscle to see how they're functioning. And that's why I think this group really is the core of most of the answers that we have in the profession, except nobody really reads their studies. And they ascribe the lack of agreement between what they think is going on and what prior studies have done as a result of the electrodes being placed incorrectly because there was no CT confirmation of the placement of the electrode to record the muscle activity. So I'm going to stop at this point and then pick up again in the next episode. I want to thank you for joining me on Jaw Talk, and I look forward to really rocking it out in the sections that are upcoming. Have a great weekend.